Thanks very much. Let's move on. Andy Mitten is on the line to talk to us about a 3-year deal, it seems like, for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer confirmed. Andy, this is the right call, it's the right time. They kind of had to make this decision because he is the right person for the job right now.
He is. It's the right call and it is the right time. Manchester United have got a very difficult run of games in the month ahead. Those 2 matches against Barcelona, Manchester City, Chelsea, Wolves, Watford, all difficult matches. And this will give encouragement, and it's a decision which all the fans wanted, which the players wanted, which the staff at the club wanted. So it's a win-win. He's been in charge since December. He's won 14 of his 19 matches. He's only lost 3, including the last 2. He's lifted the spirit massively. The players believe in him. The fans believe in him. Now's when the real hard work starts.
There was a tweet at 6:30 or 6:20 this morning from Gary Neville, which suggested he was concerned that the decision hadn't been made. He was hoping for a snap announcement today. I don't know if he knew something or if he was trying to goad the Manchester United board into some activity or whatever it was, but it always felt like if you were going to do it, you don't do it during the international break, you do it when the international break is over and everybody's back thinking about the Premier League again.
Well, the players are back in today. They're thinking about the Premier League. 6:20 is a bit late for Gary. He's normally up at 4:30, so I'd have expected that tweet to come at 5 a.m. Gary's a United fan, and he likes Ollie a lot, and he hopes that he can succeed. And I've spoken to Gary about Ollie, and he feels that he's going to need the right support around him because Manchester United's recruitment in the post-Ferguson years has been patchy. They paid too much for players. They've paid too much in wages to failing players. And Ole Gunnar has got to work with a new director of football, which the club is still planning on appointing. And Ole's all about club and the team of the coaches around him. When he received the Manager of the Month award for January, he was told, "You've won this." And he said, "No, I've not. My coaching staff have won it." And he was adamant that they were pictured with him in the photos, even though that didn't appear in a lot of the media. That's what he wanted, and he's got a good understanding of the club. He needs to be backed now. It's a team which does need changes. They've done very, very well, but especially in that game in Paris, which is one of the most incredible games I've seen. But he does need to be backed. He needs support, and hopefully, just hopefully, it will be the first manager post Ferguson which works for Manchester United, because the others came to a fanfare, they were welcomed, especially Van Gaal, especially Jose Mourinho, but the football just wasn't good enough. By the end, the fans were bored into submission and wanted him to go.
It does feel like none of the managers since Ferguson really fit the bill. So Mourinho, obviously, if he had been the successor to Ferguson at that time, when he still had the power that he had and he still seemed to be on trend or understanding the trends of world football, Van Gaal's peak, despite what he did at the World Cup, that was kind of a late flowering, which was an aberration compared with most of the latter work post the mid-90s, effectively, with Ajax. Whereas this is something different. This actually feels like it is a rising manager who is continuing to learn, but who is of the traditions of the club. So, like, of all of the different managers, and they all had something that recommended them for the post of Manchester United manager, none seemed to fit as well as this one.
It was bold. And Barca appointing Pep Guardiola was bold in 2008, and the doubts which came around with Solskjaer were, people said, well, wait a minute, he's never managed at this level. When he did manage at Cardiff City, he took the team down. And Cardiff was bad for Solskjaer, but good came from that badness. He learned a lot there, and I've spoke to players who played under him at Cardiff, and I think he toughened up as a result of putting too much trust into his players. And we're seeing a better version of Solskjaer now. He's been very successful in Norway, but of course managing Molde in a stadium of 10,000 in a town of 30,000 is very different to managing Manchester United. But I've been really impressed by him. I've seen him in press conferences. I've spoken to him. I spoke to him in the tunnel in Wolverhampton before the last game, and he's just relaxed. He's just got a good buzz about him. There's a positive air about him, and that wasn't there with Jose Mourinho. He was fighting wars on too many fronts, and Ole Gunnar, he'll have problems, no doubt about it. There will be sticky points. There will be times where the press turn against him, where results do not go to plan, where fans on social media quickly jump on him if Manchester United don't win every single game. But I think he's got the right people around him. He's got very good players at that club. I mean, this is a club with the second highest wage bill in world football, who don't look anything close to being the second best team in world football, but at least he's hauled them up since December, beating teams away like Arsenal in the Cup, Chelsea in the Cup, Tottenham in the league, and that Paris game. OK, United were outclassed in Paris, but they won the match, and football is a results business. And Louis van Gaal said the other day, results are judged too much, and maybe he had a point, but if you come out of a football ground and your team have won rather than lost or drawn disappointingly, the whole mood changes. And it's that mood which has carried Solskjaer forward right the way through to his appointment today.
What's a successful season for Manchester United this year, Andy?
You've got to finish in the top four. Going out the FA Cup was a big disappointment. And finishing in the top four seemed implausible in December when he took over. So it's to his credit that they're even in the frame to do that. But United have got to be playing Champions League football next year. Of course, they could do that by winning the European Cup, but that's going to be extremely difficult. But then going away to Paris or Juventus and winning is extremely difficult. You've got to get in that top four. They've got to finish and do as they've been doing, because if they finish in 5th or 6th and going into the Europa League, you'd have to say that despite the many highs of this season under Solskjaer, looking at the season as a whole, it would be a disappointment. This is Manchester United. They're built to be playing Champions League football. So if they're not going to win the FA Cup, which they're not, because Wolves knocked them out and deserve to do so, it's got to be a top four finish now. And anything else in the Champions League is a bonus.
And like, it is a top four battle at the moment. I certainly thought about it a month or two ago, Manchester United would potentially finish third, but the other teams around them have started to hit a bit of form, and it is going to be a battle for the top four. Like, if that doesn't happen, Andy, I'm sure there's a good chance it will, but if it doesn't happen, like, how much will that damage Solskjaer's potential next season? Like, is this summer a big transfer window in the context of Solskjaer having to go out and get top level talent that want to play Champions League football?
It makes it easier if you've got Champions League football, and Manchester United's whole pay structure is incentivised towards Champions League football. So the players will see their wages reduced by between 20 and 30% if they're not playing in the Champions League. The money in the Europa League is nowhere near as high, so they want it more than anything. It does look like a battle between United and Arsenal. Chelsea have faded more than I think anybody expected. It is a big summer, but then every summer is a big summer for Manchester United, because and for all football clubs, but United is more in transition than, say, Manchester City, who've got a very settled and established squad. And there will be money there, and there are players who need to sign contracts or be let go if they're not going to sign them. David De Gea, Juan Mata and Herrera, the three Spaniards, they're all in negotiation at the moment with varying degrees of success. And United are looking for new players as well. Solskjaer will be supported. He will be told to get his targets in early. When Harry Maguire was put forward by Jose Mourinho very late last year in the transfer window, that troubled Manchester United, because he said, well, why are you putting this on us in July? Why have you not told us this in April, especially after you've bought two expensive central defenders in the last couple of years? So these are little problems and quirks which need to be ironed out, but there'll be other problems along the way. Nothing runs smoothly in football, and what determines whether someone's successful or not is results. Solskjaer has been successful so far because of his results, and he has to continue that.
Andy, we want to play you this. It's one of your greatest hits from the immediate aftermath of the Paris game. This is what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has brought back to Manchester United.
I can't believe it. I can't believe it. They fucking won. They won 3-1. That's fucking unbelievable. It's one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. MUFC. So the United end, they're singing, the players have all gone over, they've thrown the shirts into the crowd, they're absolutely buzzing. This is just buzzing, it's brilliant. And the PSG players are stunned, they're absolutely stunned. They're on the floor, they've never seen anything like it. This is fucking, life is wonderful. Look at him, the little Norwegian.
Hey, so there's the go. Here's the thing, right? I was going to ask you questions about what are the potential weaknesses, what are the pitfalls, but we all forget, because we talk about football so much, that ultimately the point of football is not to make money for the owners. It's for people to fall in love with the sport. to find their tribe, to identify with people out there playing for their jerseys, and this is supposed to be about joy, and it's supposed to be about a love of something outside of ourselves. And if that's what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is bringing you and bringing all the rest of the Man United fans, then today's just supposed to be a happy day for you guys.
Yeah, it is, and it's funny listening. I've never heard that back, and part of me cringes because I was in the press box and I'm supposed to be a journalist, but you can't help how you feel, and it really was special what happened in Paris that night. And you're right, it is only football. It's supposed to bring joy to people. People are supposed to be entertained, and that was lost in the latter stages of Van Gaal and Jose Mourinho. And Manchester United are a club with a tradition of mostly playing good football, and that had been lost. And it's come back now under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and I'm optimistic that he is the right man. But I do think it'll be much tougher than for life under Ferguson, for example, because the competition's much tougher. You've got teams who are far, far better resourced than they were 15, 20 years ago. And then you've got teams like Manchester City, like Chelsea, who've got millions, billions. But 20 years ago, United could go to Tottenham and take their best players. They could buy Michael Carrick, they could buy Dimitar Berbatov. They could even go to Arsenal 4 or 5 years ago and take Robin van Persie. But when United went to Leicester City at the start of this season and said, we want your central defender, Leicester, like all Premier League clubs, they've got enough money. They can say no. Bournemouth can outbid AC Milan for players. So that makes it more difficult for Solskjaer, which means the youth system is vital, and that's something that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer believes in. There are young youth players who've come through the ranks and become stars like Marcus Rashford, and fans love that. And when he scored that 92nd minute winner in Paris, I wasn't expecting it, and I absolutely loved it as well. And after I'd spoken there, I went straight over to the away end and I looked for my friends in there, and that is the highlight of the post-Ferguson era. And you live for those moments in football. It doesn't matter who you support. If I speak to Liverpool fans, they will talk about Istanbul, they'll talk about their great moments as well, and that's what keeps you going. And I'm hoping that under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer he can inject the positivity and into Manchester United that has been largely missing since Ferguson.
Well, listen, Andy, enjoy the afterglow of this announcement. Thanks very much for making the time for us this morning. Cheers.
Thank you. Take care.
It's Andy Mitten there, the editor of United We Stand, giving us a sense of how the Manchester United fans feel.